Ray Smiler, I mean, he was great. Dr. Smiler.
Yeah.
He started, and even Dean Pullen. So talking about just the things that, just growth, really. I mean, it was the opportunity for personal growth, and personal growth through one, managing your own company, and just the opportunity to lead people in a more dynamic environment. I mean, I got to lead people in construction, but now I get to lead people and lead projects, and not only does my livelihood rest on our success, but I now have that responsibility for others as well. And I like that responsibility. It can keep you up at night some nights. I mean, I know you've experienced that, but I really enjoy what I'm doing.
Welcome to Winning Strategies Playbook, the podcast where we welcome business leaders, CEOs, and industry experts to discuss the rise to the top, building wealth, and real estate insights. Here's your host, Jeremy Spann.
Welcome to Winning Strategies Playbook. For more information on this show and all of our other fabulous shows, you can go to myexperiencedrealtor.com. That's experience with an ED. Click that podcast button, scroll down to this episode and other episodes where you can download all these, find out more information on our guests. And today, the great Clark Sykes. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well, Jeremy. Appreciate the opportunity very much.
Oh, yeah. So I start every one of these off with a very poor joke. Okay. All right. You ready for this?
We'll see. What
do you call a fish wearing a bow tie?
I do not know.
Sophisticated.
I need to know your source for those.
No, you don't. No, you don't, because these are the world's worst jokes. And you showed up today with a gift.
Well, got to bring something for a Marine.
Right. Well, usually that's crayons.
Yeah, well, I figured you were probably full.
Right. So these are some awesome coasters with the United States Marine Corps emblem on it, the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. I appreciate that. And actually, I'm heading back to Colorado tomorrow, so I'll take these up there.
Excellent. I was hoping those would make a trip with you.
Oh, yeah. Well, one of these days, you'll make a trip up there and come see me up there. Maybe we'll even allow Peterson to shag along, right?
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, we got to have a punching dummy, right?
There
we got to
go.
have somebody to make fun of.
There we go.
And, as you and I were just sitting here talking, you got to give Peterson a hard time. And for the audience, James has been on this show twice, once because he's current president of Cowtown Warriors, and the other one, just bringing him on as I hired him into the company. And the guy, he can sell, this will really offend the audience. If a terrorist is in Guantanamo Bay getting waterboarded every day, James could sell them water. It is amazing. It is just amazing with that. And that's how you and I got connected.
It is. Yeah. No, James did a great job. And if he doesn't work out with you, let me know, because I'll hire him to sell floors.
We're just going to stop the show now. Don't you even pose that threat. As much pain and misery as I've gotten him to get where he's at, and that guy can sell anything. He could sell a fly swatter to a fly.
Yeah, he could.
Right?
He is definitely a salesman.
Yeah, he is something else. So, and I know that I've been stressing him out here lately, but anyhow, so y'all got to know each other. And it is amazing how small this world is, right?
Definitely.
Y'all got to know each other in the executive MBA program at TCU. And y'all were cohorts, right?
Yeah. So first group we started out with, it was James Peterson, Eric Martinez, another Marine, and William Adams, and me. So we really felt sorry for William.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, 2 Marines and a Naval Academy guy. Talking trash back and forth constantly, and he just sort of looking at us like, do these guys like each other?
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, look, Marines, we love the Navy. You give us a ride to go fight. I mean, Navy's warfighting program is identify threat, send Marines, drink coffee.
Maybe not in that order.
Or just send the Marines. They'll go start something, right? Yeah. Or a limo port. And as it turns out, this is how small the world is one of my previous guests that I had on here, the very handsome Jamie Pease. You both were at the Naval Academy together,
We were.
right?
We were classmates. So, yeah, he graduated at the different end of the class than I did. He was up at the higher end. I tell folks I graduated in the I think top 7/8 of the class, somewhere around
Top
there.
5, 7, 8. Hey, man. But you know what? Listen, as long as you're not last, you're good, right?
I don't know. Last made some money.
Did they?
So
Well, and the funny thing is so Jamie, who's also a very, very close personal friend of mine, is whenever I said, remember we were at the investor meeting, I took a picture and I said, hey, I didn't know you knew this guy. And he was like, I love that guy. And I was like, "Ooh, Jamie only likes like 5 humans, so you're the 5th because I know I'm not in the 5, right?" And so, Naval Academy, TCU, executive MBA. Where are you originally from?
I'm from Fort Worth. So my wife and I lived down in Tanglewood. We both grew up in the neighborhood. We lived between my parents and her parents. My sister and her family live about 2 blocks further away from us than my in-laws. So we're pretty close knit. We hang out together.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Trinity Valley, so
Okay,
back at the old campus on McCart, K through 12.
Oh yeah, that's now what is that?
South Hills.
South Hills.
Yep, the Scorpions.
Right, the Scorpions, and that's a tough school now, man. Oh.
Yeah, well, and it looks like they're getting a whole lot of renovations right now, so we'll see. See how that goes.
So you go to Trinity Valley, right? And then, so what possesses you to think about going to a service academy?
I had always wanted to serve. I knew both my granddads did during World War II. My dad didn't. He had been drafted in Vietnam and then blew out his knee before he left. But both my granddads served. Interesting story on that. So when they were cleaning out my grandparents' house, my grandmother had moved down here into an assisted living facility, and they were cleaning things out, and they just found this piece of paper rolled up on an old paper towel roll, and so They didn't really think anything of it, but they unrolled it, and it was my granddad's shellback certificate from World War II when he was going to the Solomons Islands as a Seabee to help build landing strips on Guadalcanal.
Wow.
So yeah, I got it, and then they had his discharge card too. He was I want to say EM2, electrician's mate 2nd class, during World War II. Had his discharge card, had some little holes in it, but I got them all framed. And
now, for the audience, tell them what shellback means. I know, but
so shellback, and I never got it. So he.
Were you? Well, you were what, a Westpac guy?
I was Gulf Coast of Texas for a while, which is the real Navy, and then then I went over to San Diego, and then it went Westpac. Was forward deployed to Japan for a while, but shellback is when you cross the equator. So anytime you cross the equator, you get indoctrinated into the shellback community. And I never made it. We were on our way down there, and then some stuff started happening up in another part of the world, so we got rerouted.
Yeah. So you get into the Naval Academy. What was that process like?
It was challenging. I looked really good on paper, so I fooled a lot of people. But no, I did the interview process with it was Congressman Guerin at the time. So Pete Guerin's office originally interviewed me, and then he didn't run again. And Kay Granger's office kept his nominees and put me up as a nomination as one of their nominations for the Naval Academy the year that I went in. So got that process done. Actually got denied entry to the Naval Academy at first because they said my eyesight was too bad. I looked at it. I was disappointed, but I looked at it and realized that they made a math mistake. And oddly enough, the Naval Academy made a math error. And so Congresswoman Granger's office sent them a note saying, hey, we think you made a mistake. They said, we did. You're welcome to attend. So that was in 97. And so found out, I think it was the first day of spring break in 97 that I was going to get to go to the Naval Academy. So went up there July 1st of 1997, and
then life happened.
Yeah.
So how many new midshipmen come in?
Right around 1,200.
1,200.
At least when I went in, it was about 1,200 per class.
Yeah.
Starting, and I think we graduated with 960 something.
Tell me about the attrition rate. What's that about?
It's really the first 2 years is when most of the attrition happens. Just people who realize that it's not for them. Mm-hmm. You have to go for the right reason. You can't go for somebody else. You have to go for yourself. If you're going for anybody else or because you want to make somebody else happy, you're not going to be happy and you're not going to enjoy it. But the friends I made are lifelong friends. I mean, we don't see each other often, but when we do, it's like we were never apart.
Wow.
And quick aside, and not to be too somber, but a classmate of mine unfortunately lost his life 2 days ago on December 7th. He was a commanding officer of SEAL Team 8. And they were doing a fast roping exercise. Brian Bourgeois, great guy. He and I served together down in Ingleside. He went surface warfare before he went to Spec War. And then he went Spec War, was commanding officer of SEAL Team 8, and leaves behind a wife and five children. So sad day for us. He's going to be honored at the Army-Navy game this Saturday.
As he should be.
And so.
Man, so he wanted to take being retarded to the next level and being like, that's what I always tell people, like, when people go, man, my kid's thinking about going into the spec ops community, and I'm like, why? Because it always sucks.
So he did the surface warfare thing down in Ingleside, which is McHale's Navy, or it's closed now. I mean, it was so bass backwards that they had to close the base. But yeah, we were down there together, and then he moved on and did bigger and better things.
So, in the Naval Academy, like Jamie took the Marine Corps route, right? So when does that happen in the academy?
If I remember, I always pretty much knew I was going to go surface warfare, so I never really did a whole lot of soul searching on that.
Yeah.
Really, you do things over the summers to sort of figure out what you like. I knew I couldn't fly because of the eyesight thing, and then didn't really want to go the Marine Corps route. We'll just leave it at that.
You have more sense.
and submarines, I wasn't going to get on a submarine, and like I said, I didn't graduate high enough in the class to qualify for nuclear power school anyway.
Yeah.
But I really think junior year you really start to lock it in, and you figure out what you're going to do, and then in your senior year you start to figure out where you're going to go. Okay. So, like senior year, I got to pick ship I wanted to go on, where I wanted to be stationed.
Okay, what ship did you choose?
USS Robin, MHC 54, the mine hunter. So I did that. One, it was in Texas, so I thought, oh, that's close to home. Well, Ingleside's not close to home, but, and I wasn't ever there. But then we, oh man, I was the junior ensign on board, and so I graduated May 25th, 2001. September 11th happened shortly after that. So things changed in what our goals were going to be and what our op tempo was going to be, even for SWOs like me. I mean, the Marines clearly ramped up.
Yeah.
But for surface warfare guys, we were up in Rhode Island, or I was up in Rhode Island at the time, going to surface warfare officer school. Then went down to Ingleside, got on my ship there. We quote unquote deployed up and down the East Coast to clear mine routes in and out of major ports, because everybody was concerned that
was next. Yeah.
that mines could be a problem. But so, deployed up and down, we really just went up the East Coast at that point.
So how do you sweep? I mean, I know there's certain things you can't talk about naturally because of the confidential nature of the military, but kind of for the audience, I mean, how do you sweep for mines?
Well, so Minesweeper is passive. So that's where you're dragging some things behind you to try and set them off. I was on a mine hunter, so that's an active pursuit. So you have a sonar that would drop through the hull. And again, they're no longer in the Navy. They were an interesting class of ship. They were made out of glass reinforced plastic. So, a lot of people you hear when a ship is decommissioned, they get melted down into razor blades. I like to say ours got melted down into Rubik's Cubes because we couldn't make razor blades out of the plastic.
Yeah.
But, we would drop the sonar down through the center of the hull. We'd drive these routes where we thought there potentially could be mines. And it was interesting to see what you would find on the seabed out to sea. I mean, we found toilets, we found cars, just
in the middle of the sea,
just in the middle of the ocean. Off the Gulf of off the coast of Texas and the Gulf of Mexico, down off the East Coast, off various ports. I mean, it was an interesting time. It was a small ship, small crew, so a lot of responsibility.
So, were y'all a part of carrier groups?
No, we maxed out at maybe 10 knots.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, no, we were
slow and low, huh?
Yeah, we were not.
Well, explain that to the audience. So, like, I know what a knot is, but
so a nautical mile per hour. So there are 2,000 yards in a nautical mile. So knots are like miles per hour, but a little bit different. So 10 knots, maybe about 12 to 15 miles an hour, somewhere in there.
Okay. Wow.
So not fast.
Not fast, right?
No.
So, and then did you ever get a chance to find?
We found a lot of dummy ones.
A lot of dummy ones.
We never. There are ranges out there, so we never found anything that was actually threatening. I know some guys who went over to the Middle East and at least found the stuff that they thought was threatening.
Yeah,
I mean every ship can be a minesweeper once.
Right. right. Until you find it, and then boom.
Samuel B. Roberts and USS Princeton both hit mines at some point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I can't remember the years on those. But
wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. So how many years do you do in the Navy?
So 6 years. I graduated in May of 2001, and I got out. So just under 6 years, actually. I got out.
Is the commitment 4 or 6 years?
It's 5 years.
It's 5 years. Okay.
So I just did a little bit over my minimum commitment. And, I initially was commissioned thinking it was going to be a career, and I would have hit 20 years in May, this past May, had I stayed in. But I moved 8 times in 6 years. Didn't really like, and I mean, full household goods moves. So I bounced all over the country, and it was time for me to settle down.
This is going to totally date me. If I was still in the military, I would have hit 30 years today. Or 30 years, 30, not necessarily today, but I'd be at 30 years. I'd be over 30. I would, but the Marine Corps wasn't going to keep me that long. They were like, I was a pain in the ass.
You think you think you could have made it to Kaz's level?
Oh, yeah. He and I talk about that all the time, right? Is because, I was like, man, because MARSOC wasn't around, during my time, right? And that didn't happen. So for the audience, MARSOC is... So you've got recon in the Marine Corps, right? And prior to the events that happened on 9/11, Marine generals always fought to keep us out of the SOCOM community because they always wanted us to only be under Marines' control, right? Right. And so then after 9/11, when they came up with MARSOC, right, or the Raider battalions, which at some point you have to because a lot of money over there, and and you get all the cool toys when you're over there. And I tell them, I was like, man, because MARSOC didn't come around till after I had been out about 10 years, I think. So I got out. I went in 91. I got out 97, and then I did a year in the reserves, and I was like, no, I'm done doing all this, and then. So it was like 10 years afterwards. I think it was 2007 when it came out.
Oh, I didn't even know it was. I didn't even know it was that late. I mean,
it was. Well, I know they started off with I can't remember what they called it, Det 1 or Det 5. Okay. So basically, they just came and took, Force Recon Marines and said, okay, guess what, today you're a Force Recon Marine, tomorrow you're a MARSOC Marine, right? And then so they stood up the unit. So Kaz being an original plank holder. Over there was, and Jamie as well, right? And when they were like, okay, you guys are going to be MARSOC Marines, they're like, well, what are we to go do? And you're like, figure it out. Like, this is probably the coolest time you could ever do that because it was like, well, I guess we're going to figure it out as we go, right? Yeah. So now the processes are done much, much different. And, but I tell them all the time, it's like, man, I felt like I missed a good concert, because if I would just, and he was like, yeah, but you would have had to stick around for another 10 years, and I was like,
then you'd have been hitting retirement right at that time.
And it's like, and because I would have retired in 2000, I would have retired in 2011 with 20, if 2021 would have given me 30 years, but that's the thing is, shoulda, woulda, coulda is not by design who I really am, right? It was more FOMO than anything, right? Because I knew all the players, right?
I didn't get to play with the fun toys.
Yeah. So a lot of the players, that were over there were in during my time, right? Yeah. And so it's really, really funny, because like even when Kaz and I are sitting there talking, it's getting harder and harder now because I've been out so incredibly long. That most of anybody I was in with is, they're 30 years. Very few people make full 30 years, right? And, but we'll be sitting there talking and he'll bring up a name and so-and-so, or he'll call me and be like, cause he was at something, I don't remember. And he calls me and he goes, hey, do you remember so-and-so? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, dude, I'm literally sitting here and I brought you up in conversation. He was like, oh, I remember that idiot. You know? And so it was just kind of funny how small the world really is.
Yeah.
And, you know, but now, you know,
especially in a small community like that. I mean, surface warfare officers were a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, getting to know every surface warfare officer isn't going to happen. But in the smaller communities like recon or special forces or things like that, you're going to cross paths with folks.
People that, it's going to, you know, now the only way I would probably recognize somebody is if they were, you know, it's post-retirement time and you come across somebody or funny enough, so when I was with the PD and after 9/11 happened, they were reinforcing DFW Airport with police departments all around for doing off-duty jobs. And I was sitting there working on, I was at a terminal. My job was, they were just forming the TSA, and my job was basically standing around in uniform, right?
Yeah,
and
be the president.
Yeah, and I don't remember what terminal or where this was at DFW. I mean, this was, you know, again, 20 years ago. But the terminal behind me, you know, so I'm looking and I'm seeing the people get off the plane, and I kind of double take and I look at a guy and I'm like, yeah, that guy looks familiar. Of course, at this point I'd been out. So 2001, I'd been out, you know, several years, right?
Yeah.
So the guy walks by and he's looking at me and I'm looking at him. And then he walks back by and I was like, hey, are you in the military? Or were you in the military? And he goes, well, I'm in the Army. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, man, you look like just like somebody I served with in the Marines. And he goes, I was in the Marines. And then we started talking, and it was like, you know, we were in the same unit, but not on the same team, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I thought that was you, right? And
why'd you switch to the
He had never
Army?
been in Texas. He was there on a 45-minute layover to catch another flight.
Unbelievable.
And he was like, yeah. He goes, I'm on my way home and flight connected through DFW. Just smallest world. There was just very cool, you know. And I wish, you know, and thinking back on it, I wish I would have grabbed his phone number and all that and been like, hey, man, what's up? You know, how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah.
Something similar happened to me. A guy I served with on USS Lassen was flying through DFW. I was getting ready to fly somewhere and just bumped into each other and caught up for 5-10 minutes. And
you just sit there, and it's a crazy small world. Like even with Jamie Pease, right? Yeah. You know, I meet you through Peterson, right? You know, and I know Peterson because Sean Carr introduced me to Peterson, and then I suckered Peterson into working on Cowtown Warriors. And then after I got Sean to go do the executive MBA program, then I suckered James into going and doing it with the total intention is I was like, if I can get an MBA on this guy, I'm going to hire him.
Well, that's perfect.
Yeah. Because this guy could just sell anything to anybody, right? And he is a real card, right? He is just a real card, right? And then literally, like when he was graduating y'all graduated February, right? Or y'all finished February, but graduation's not till December, right?
Well, May. No, we graduated in May.
May, but y'all finished in February, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, he and another Marine Corps buddy of mine had come up to Colorado, and you know, and he had told me, you know, because he was in, you know, commercial insurance, and he just knew that he was just not happy. He hadn't been happy for a long time. He was with his third insurance company, and sooner or later, you're just like, man, it doesn't matter how many dresses you try on. If the dress doesn't fit, the dress doesn't fit, right?
Well, it's such a long sales cycle and all that other stuff.
Yeah. And I was like, God, this guy is just so talented. So then, you know, I'd flown back to Fort Worth, here in Fort Worth, from Colorado. I was in a bunch of meetings, and it's really funny. And I had this happen to me this week. Is all these guys, you know, because I always bum rides off of them because most of the time I don't have a vehicle here. Yeah. They were like, you have more money and you know what to do with. Why don't you just buy another vehicle for here? And I was like, why can I do that when it's bum a ride off you? You know? And I was like, because I keep all my vehicles up in Colorado.
Yeah,
right?
and my Uber payment is less than
right.
a truck payment.
I was like, I just Uber everywhere. And if not, I'll just get you to give me. So I'd call James and I said, hey, come by the house. I want to show you something. And he comes over and he shows me something. And I was like, hey, so are you going back downtown? And he goes, yeah. And I said, cool. I said, give me a ride. He goes, you came have me come over because you wanted a ride? He goes, you're such a pain in the ass. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then, so anyhow, he was sitting there. And I mean, at this point, he is just as miserable can be. And he was giving me a ride at Fort Worth Club. And he goes, yeah, he goes, I think I'm going to punch out of insurance, but I don't know what I want to go do. Because the MBA program, right, and we're going to get into this, is when you go through TCU's executive MBA program, one of a couple of things is going to happen. Either you're there to check the box, you can say I got an MBA and you're going to keep going on with your company, or you're like, yep, my path is to keep ascending up, whether with this company or a similar company.
Yeah.
Or you just realize like James did, I did, and you did. It's just like, I'm just not in the industry that I'm supposed to be in, and it unlocks that. So I knew that was with James's. Basically, it was true. Going to that program was true serum for him, right? To have to sit there and face, I'm not an insurance guy. So he's sitting there telling me, and and Laura and I had already been talking about this for a while with him, is because like we make jokes of it, but this dude could literally sell snow to an Eskimo, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy. And so
he has an uncanny ability to figure out what your pressure points are. And where he needs to steer the conversation.
Oh yeah. He's the most manipulating somebody you ever met in your life.
I was trying to say it nicer,
right?
Yeah.
Call it what it is. So anyhow, he so he's getting me right, and he's just like, I'm pretty certain, because I think it was the following week he was supposed to have a meeting with Michael and one of the other higher ups or something like that, and he goes, I think I'm going to be telling them that I just don't want to do this anymore. And I said, I was like, well, you want a job? And he was like, yeah, well, I'm going to need one. Where do you want? And I was like, come work with me, man. And he was like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, that's why I kind of talked you into going to the program, is eventually I knew I wanted to steal you.
Yeah. Well,
so I'm sure if Michael Moore's listening to this, he's like, you son of a bitch, you had it pre-planned the whole time. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, but in James's defense, he didn't even know, right?
Yeah.
And then so he was like, yeah, and then he had his meeting the next week, and, which kind of threw them off. And he just goes, man, it's just, I'm not leaving to go to another, this is my third insurance company. It's just, I'm not happy.
Yeah, it's not the
right.
Not the right fit.
I'm not the right fit. And then so it was kind of funny is after he had that meeting, I called James and I said, hey, I'm going to buy you a plane ticket. Come up here and see me in Colorado. And Michael Moore had even told him, he goes, he ain't flying you up to go skiing.
Yeah.
That's a recruiting trip.
Yeah, you're getting
right?
a hard sell now.
Yeah. And then, so I flew him up for about 10 days.
Oh, yeah, he kept sending us pictures of how awesome a time he was having.
Yeah, no. I mean, here's, in my defense, my life does not suck, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I just said, yeah. And we spent the next 10 days going over like, hey, this is what this is going to do. This is how it's going to work. And then, fast forward now, here it is, we're in December, and that guy's made more, and he'll be the first to tell you, he's like, I've made more money in the last 90 days than I've ever made in a single year in my life, right?
Yeah, which is awesome.
Because you put somebody where they're supposed to be and where they're happy, and they're going to succeed, right? Because how many people, like even when you did your program, how many people were in your program that you were like, oh, they just look like they're living in misery every day?
Oh yeah, there were a number of them, and I mean, some of them even realized that halfway through the program and made the switch halfway through the program. I mean, mentioned Eric Martinez, he realized it halfway through the program, and he made a move during the program. So
yeah, we had that happening. We either had people that changed companies. So over half of our class, what was it? It was like half of our class within 12 months after graduation, either during or after, were either not at the same company, and I think it was like 20% of us completely made different industry changes, right?
Yeah.
So this happens to you. So you get out of the Navy. What do you do after the Navy?
So after the Navy, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and interviewed with Lindbeck Construction. And
do you know Grant Jordan over there?
Yes. Why do I know Grant Jordan?
He's an attorney, but I think he was over at
Lindbeck
for a while.
Yeah. That's right.
Super good friend of mine. His brother's one of my closest friends. His brother's the CFO of Grapevine.
So yeah, Grant and I didn't really cross paths while we were there. He was there for a while. He left, and then I'm trying to remember who
he came back, but then went somewhere else.
Has he gone somewhere else since then?
Maybe I have.
He came back and he went to the city of Fort Worth for a while. That's right.
Oh, that's right.
And then he went back to Lindbeck and was a client executive there. And I don't know if he's still there or not, but yeah, he and I we were not at Lindbeck together.
Yeah,
but
paths have crossed, right?
But paths have crossed. Yeah. So yeah.
So you go to Lindbeck.
Yep. Did that for I want to say 8 or 9 years.
What were you doing there?
I did a little bit of everything. So I had to learn the industry. So I started off as project engineer, so just doing the grunt work, day-to-day construction management type stuff. Grew into doing the financial side, some project management, some pre-construction management, and some business development while I was there. Did some really awesome projects, which was a lot of fun. Worked on the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History, Crystal Bridges Museum up in Arkansas, Cook Children's, which was awesome because when I was a kid, I was a resident at Cook twice. Once with osteomyelitis in my hip.
What's that?
It's a bacteria that gets into your bone and starts to eat the bone, but got to spend a week there with that, and then broke my arm really bad and got to spend a week there while that got fixed. So yeah, working at Cook was amazing. That's a great organization, and it was really special to have them in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
And then I decided I'd make a move and try the development side of things. So went to Trademark Property Company and did 3 years there. Learned a lot, but realized it probably wasn't the fit for me on the retail development side, and so went to Sodalco Construction, and that's who I was with when I started the program.
What made you start the program?
I felt stagnant. Tell
me more about that. What do you mean?
So I felt like I had the knowledge of business and how business should run, and just really wanted to find out more about the nitty-gritty of it. So learn the financial side. I mean, I have a political science degree from the Naval Academy. Focusing on finance is not one of their prime motives in educating us there. So I wanted to learn the finance side, wanted to learn, I mean, even the negotiation side. So having an actual class on negotiations was incredible because it helped me see some of the flaws I'd had and how I was negotiating with people, trying to use a hammer rather than making it two-sided. And really, I'd wanted to do it. So this was the third time I'd started to do the program. I'd started to do it back in like 2010 or 11. Then I thought about it again in 2014. And finally, I just realized I need to do it now for me. And ancillary benefit was it was going to help me professionally. At the time, my plan was to stay with Sodalco. They're a great firm, great culture, people I really enjoyed working with. But towards the end of the program, I realized, and really, I think the pandemic probably helped push me in that direction a little bit more as well.
Tell me why. Walk me through that.
So it just gave me the opportunity to be a little bit more reflective on what I would be, regrets I might have if I didn't do something with the opportunity at the time. And my granddad on my mom's side had his own business. He was an electrical contractor up in Oklahoma City. My granddad on my dad's side had his own business. Now, I never knew him when he had a business, but he owned a lumber yard here in Fort Worth. Chickasaw Lumber used to be over on Vickery. Now it's a freeway. And then my dad started his own law firm. So there's a history of entrepreneurship in the family.
It's in the blood, right?
Yeah. And I just realized, if I don't do this, and if I spend all the time and money I spend on TCU just to keep doing the same thing upon graduation, I may not resent the fact that I didn't do it, but I will regret the fact that I didn't do it, or at least give it a shot. So at least take a couple swings at it. Yeah. And, my goal, I bought the flooring franchise. You're familiar with what we do.
Yeah. Well, because you mentioned something before that we started the show. Is there was a particular class that you got to and you said light bulb went off.
Oh, Smiler's class?
Yeah.
So Ray Smiler, I mean, he was great. Dr. Smiler. Yeah. He started, and even Dean Pullen. So talking about just the things that, just growth, really. I mean, it was the opportunity for personal growth, and personal growth through managing your own company, and just the opportunity to lead people in a more dynamic environment. I mean, I got to lead people in construction, but now I get to lead people and lead projects, and not only does my livelihood rest on our success, but I now have that responsibility for others as well, and I like that responsibility. It can keep you up at night some nights. I mean, I know you've experienced that, but I really enjoy what I'm doing now. There are days. I mean, there's a curve that they give us in our franchisor gives us, and it shows this curve like this, and it's unfettered optimism on the way up, and then you're at the peak there, and then it shows the downward curve. I don't remember what it has at the bottom, but and they say you will experience this throughout your growth as a business owner. Should I be experiencing it multiple times daily? Because I'll go into a house, I'll make a sale, I'm excited. I'll go back to the office, say, "You made a sale. We've already spent that money. Yeah. Crap, I got to go do another one." So,
right.
So yeah, that curve is during the startup process probably a little bit faster than it would be otherwise. But
so, how far were you in the program when you decided to buy this franchise?
It was August. The August before graduation was when I really made the decision. I didn't really pull the trigger until October.
Okay.
But yeah, August was
so just basically a little over a year ago.
Yeah. It's been a fast moving year,
but it seemed a lot longer, right?
It does, yeah. And I promised my wife I would not open the business until I was done with classes, and the franchisor agreed to let me go ahead and pay the franchise fee.
They were like, "Yeah, we'll take your money.
Yeah, we'll take your money." But they agreed to wait on me, which was nice because there were other people looking at the territory that I ended up buying, but they wanted to wait for me to be in the territory, which was nice of them to do. And so I opened in April, and just been
blowing and
going like mad.
So what made you choose? Well, first, because I want to peel the layers behind this off because I think it's really interesting for content for the audience. Is one, what made you choose a franchise? Did you know you were going to choose a franchise? And then when you did choose a franchise, did you have any remote idea that it would be doing what you're doing now?
No. So it's interesting. I was on a call, Service Academy Business Masterminds, I believe. Scott Mackus is one of my classmates, and he runs it. And they had a franchise broker on there, and he was talking about franchise brokerage. And then I ended up meeting another franchise broker, and I ended up going through her. But I had, I had all the terrible thoughts of franchises, or the anecdotes you hear about how franchising, you're just giving away money and all this other stuff. So I did not really think that I would go the franchise route at all. But I had been thinking. So I guess back up a little bit. So the summer before I ended up doing this, I had been thinking about flooring companies. I ran business development for Sidalco, but I was also helping out in the pre-construction side on bid days, and I was taking all the flooring bids. So I was doing takeoffs on floors. I was calling all the flooring companies, getting their bids and all that kind of stuff. And I started thinking, well, if these guys can do this, why couldn't I? So I'd actually been thinking about a flooring business, trying to find one to buy or starting one from scratch. And the franchise broker I ended up working with didn't know that when I did the interview with her. So I interviewed with her and talked to her about what my goals were with a business. And she started looking at home service-based industries.
What were your goals? What were some of your goals?
Financial independence. And really she focused on my strengths, which was customer service and client satisfaction, which are two of the driving fact. They're sort of what drive my business today is deliver what I promise, which I think is crucial to a successful business. And my reputation and my business reputation should drive the referral side of the business. I mean, that's the only reason I think that we've had the relationship we have is because James was willing to vouch for me. And it was personality based, and the fact that if I screw something up in one of your houses, I'm going to go in there and fix it.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say, well, sorry, this is where the contract ends, and go fix it. But so some of that came out in the interview process when I was talking to her, and so she didn't place me, but she introduced me to 3 different businesses. One was a trash hauling business, one was a pool cleaning business, and then she had no idea I was interested in flooring, but the third one was this flooring business. And so I started talking to all 3 of them, and this one just clicked. And, looking at it, and going back to one of your earlier questions was, why a franchise? I started looking at startup costs, relationships that you have to build with the vendors and things like this. And I mean, this was baked. I mean, that's what was really nice about it is all the relationships with the vendors, I didn't have to establish those. I just had to establish an account with them. our head of merchandising has and all our other franchisees. So there are over 150 franchisees in the Floor Coverings International family, and so all those franchisees have helped develop the buying power and the relationships that we need with the major flooring companies out there, major vendors. So I had those relationships in place before I even started, which was nice. I mean, if I was doing this as a one man show, I'd call one of the major flooring companies, say, "Hey, this is Clark Sykes. I've got Sykes floors, and I need X number of square feet of this for this project." All right, we'll get to you. But having the, hey, this is Clark Sykes with Floor Coverings International. Now I have a national account rep, a local account rep, and it helps smooth the process. So it's been important for me from a startup perspective to have that network, really. Again, everything in my opinion with business goes back to network, whether it's the TCU network that I now have.
Your network is your net worth.
Yeah, and it's unbelievable how my Naval Academy network, Service Academy in general network, I mean, meet with guys all the time. I know Alberto Reyes is with Briggs Freeman as well. And I mean, I talk to Alberto all the time. I mean, just growing that network is critical. Well, by buying into this franchise, I had that network. We now have 13 or 14 franchisees in the DFW marketplace. We've formed a co-op. Now we have our own ability to increase our merchandising negotiation platform. We can go out and say, hey, there are 13 of us in this area. We're not 13 $1 to $2 million businesses. We're a $13 million business now buying together. So that carries significantly more clout than if I was Sykes Floors saying, hey, can I swing by? Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's been fun. Now, when I started this business, I started with the intent of this is a stepping stone. This is a starting point. So start with this and then grow into other, whether it's home services, construction services. Haven't really ironed that out yet, but the plan is for this to be one of many going forward. So
what? Now this is a good question. Is so you started a year after the pandemic.
Yes.
Right. Worst forecast of anything in the history of ever and ever, and you're like, screw it, I'm going to go do a startup.
well, so I got lucky and I could predict the future, and and Snowmageddon came right about the time I was getting ready to start.
Right.
So actually, flooring demand had been on the uptick, and really looking at the housing market in the DFW area, and I mean, you know this as well as anybody, the growth and the people moving into this area. It showed no signs of slowing down.
Right.
So with the number of people moving in, and right now I'm doing mostly remodels, but my goal, and I mean, you've introduced me to Dustin.
Yep.
So
because you're going to do the floors on our other house that we're building right now.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
So so you've introduced me to Dustin. My goal is to get in with contractors, both on the commercial and the residential side, and start to grow my ability to serve them. Now, some of that's where the franchise model could hurt a little bit, because I do have to pay the franchisor.
Right.
So I mean, there are pros and cons, obviously, but
and is that a lifetime payment?
It is throughout our relationship.
So if you scaled your business and decided to sell it, does the person that buys it also have to buy the franchise?
Yeah, they sign the franchise agreement.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha.
Which, again,
hey, if it's kicking off enough money, who cares, right? Yeah. So you decided to do this. Have because of the pandemic, we've seen just ridiculous supply chain disruptions.
Yes, we have.
Yeah. How's that affected you?
You know, the one house it affected me the most on, I was really lucky because I knew that this customer wasn't going to fire me. It was my parents. So or
if you get fired by your parents, man, you've taken it to that next level.
I might as well call the franchisor and say, "Hey, this isn't going to work." So no, that was the longest lead item I've had was my parents' house, and I want to say we closed the deal. I closed the deal with my parents. No, I ordered the material, probably March or April, and didn't get it until late June, early July.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and we put it in August. So it was a little bit longer lead time there. Yeah. But again, had a sympathetic client on that one. And you know, what I just have to tell my customers, and now with another sales associate coming on, we just communicate. I mean, really, we had one customer who's extremely happy. We installed her floors this week, but we had originally anticipated installing them probably early to mid-November. Then it got pushed to late December.
Was that because of the supply chain?
Because of supply chain, because the material shortage. A lot of our products are manufactured overseas, some in China. Now a lot of the flooring is being manufactured in Vietnam. So that's helped speed up the supply chain a little bit. But then you've got the port issues where nothing's coming into the port. You've got the container issues where there are no containers available.
It's ridiculous how many ships are just sitting off the coast now. That
if you just think about the money that's being spent, I mean, fuel costs, labor costs, no new transfer of goods. I mean, it just phenomenal how much money is being lost.
Do you think that? Now, I know guys like you and I get this, and probably most of our audience probably gets this because our show targets high performers. But do you think Peterson. And Peterson?
Sorry, James.
Do you think that a large majority of people in this country don't really have a clue how bad supply chains are right now?
I think that one thing that may have been eye-opening to them is the fact that they couldn't get toilet paper when the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
I think that and sort of the supply chain issues that hit at the beginning of the pandemic have probably opened people's eyes. I mean, construction materials, things like that, that's sort of transparent to folks. But when you can't wipe your hind end because you can't get toilet paper, and I tried to PG that up a little bit for you. But if you can't get toilet paper, if you can't get bread, if you can't get certain staples, I think that's opened people's eyes to supply chain a little bit more than, I mean, it used to be, hey, I need something, I'll go to Walmart, I'll go to Tom Thumb, I'll go pick it up, and I'll be home in 10 minutes. When the things weren't available on the shelves, I think that has helped me, probably helped you in the real estate market communicate the supply chain is screwed up. The supply chain is
and I don't care who's president. Nobody gets to wave a magic wand and correct it.
No,
right?
No. I mean, it's an over-reliance on things coming in from out of the country, partially.
Well, just-in-time inventory has been done for so long that what do you do when just-in-time isn't enough?
Yeah, and I'm a big believer in lean practices and how just-in-time is great until it isn't.
Right.
And I mean, and just-in-time is awesome on a construction site because it helps you maintain a clean construction site. It helps you maintain efficiencies on the construction site because you're not moving stuff all over the place.
Yeah.
But if you're waiting to order material, and again, this happened to me on another project, is we had the floors ordered, we had the floors coming in, and I was like, okay, I'm going to wait and order the trim, so the shoe mold, which is the little piece that goes at the bottom of the baseboard that covers the gap at the edge. I said, I'll order that the week of, and then I'll go get it. Well, between the time that I landed the job and then went to go get the trim, my cost increased by 120%. So fortunately, it's a cheaper item, but looking at it, if I'd done that with the floors, which are the most expensive part of a flooring project other than the labor, but if I'd waited to order the floors and had it go up 120%,
you'd have been upside down on the deal.
Oh
yeah. Well, and so this gives me a good segue. Is so as you know, I mean, we're buying quite a bit in real estate in our fund, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're moving on along, and I knew one of the houses was going to be a total remodel, right? And then we also knew one was going to be a scrape where you know, we were going to build ground up on. And but it was really interesting because when Laura and I were over there, because here's the thing is, it's actually a rare occasion that I've ever walked through the doors of anything that I'm buying. I mean, I'm buying on an average right now of 2 assets a week. If you average it out, I mean, we're scaling quick.
Right.
And I can't be in all these places, right? I mean, my job is to scale the business. Kaz's job is to do all the maintenance and coordination of that. And Peterson's job is to put some people in them, right? And but we just happen to be in town, and because we bought several houses on the same street, right? And when we were over there, and you had already come and done the measurements, and we were getting ready to do it. And as we were there, and I can't remember why Laura and I had gone over there, but she was looking at the carpet. She goes, she was like, hey, cut that carpet up. Because we knew we were pulling carpet out anyways, because that carpet was bad, right? And she was like, this thing's got the original hardwood floors under it. And then that's when I pinged you and said, hey, not just, creating floors, do you refurbish floors? And you're like, bet your rear end we do.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so this project went from one thing to another that when I did go back after, because I wanted to see the hardwood, because I'm a hooker for hardwood floors.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? I love hardwood.
Yeah.
When they're done right, they're amazing. I mean, I got hardwoods in my house in Colorado, which was also really funny because it's got that radiant flooring.
Yep.
Because I was like, where's your HVAC? And they're like, well, there is none. And I was
Lie
like,
down on the floor.
What do you do when you get hot? They're like, you open a window. And I was like, well, how do you heat it? And they're like, well, it's all on floor. But anyhow, I wanted to go back and see these, and man, you killed it.
Yeah.
I mean, Laura and I went back over there, and she was like, holy cow. And my investor partner was like, holy cow. This is amazing.
Well, if he has hardwoods, have him give me a call. I'll come refinish them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's an easy sell right there.
I mean, I like I mentioned earlier before we started recording, I have found good partners.
Yeah.
I've been
How did you do that?
I'd love to say it was brilliance on my part. Part of it's just dumb luck and continuing to call. So, I mean, we had some hiccups trying to find the right partners. We had to reinstall a couple floors, learned who not to hire, and then, just through process of elimination, we found some guys who are just outstanding. Yeah, and they're responsive. They're fair to me.
Here's the thing: is you're really good at under-promising, over-delivering. Right?
I had a captain who said, "Promise silver, deliver gold."
Yeah,
he beat that into me.
Oh yeah, and it was really interesting because I was like, "Hey, but if we do it this way." You were like, okay, and I know this about construction, right? It is when you tell your general contractor, hey, I want to change what we're going to do, that's going to add time, right? Or a lot of times it's going to add money, right? Because you're like, hey, no, we can absolutely do that, but the invoice is going to change. And you're like, yeah, I mean, it's different than laying down floors on top of the existing floor, but yeah, we can do it. It might take a little longer. The people that you brought, it ended up being just the same amount of time, right?
Yeah, probably a day or two longer, but they got in there and they cranked it out.
Yeah, and it was just they did an incredible job. It was incredibly efficient.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and it was great. But it was also too is when I had asked you, I was like, hey, because we were also going to repaint the entire inside of the house. And I was like, hey, do I just go ahead and do this because we don't care if paint gets on the floor and everything else? And you're like, actually, you want to paint afterwards because we're going to be in here and there's going to be sanders and everything else. Whatever you paint, dust is coming up off the floor, right?
Right.
You said, we'll still get the dust off, but that's going to add time, to the project, right?
Yeah. Well, and, in there doing floors, opportunity to ding walls, opportunity to ding trim.
Yeah.
It's better if, in my opinion, painters may disagree with me, but I always like doing the paint after the floors.
Well, yeah, because painters don't like it because now they got to do more prep work to protect the nice new floors, right?
But a good painter is gonna keep the paint on the walls for the most part anyway. Yeah, you just have to put some paper down to keep it from keep a little bit of splatter off.
Yeah. But. So you get cooking in April. Mm-hmm. And then now, fast forward 9 months later, how much business have you done in the first 9 months?
So we are going to be over $500,000. I almost said $500 million. That's not close to right.
Right.
We're going to be right over $500,000 for year one in sold revenue, and actually installed work will probably be right around $450,000.
Wow, that's pretty aggressive.
It is. Wait till you see my next year's plan. That's one nice thing about being part of the franchise group, as well as I have an ops coach who I work with, and he helps me build my business plan, and he also helps me set realistic expectations.
Right.
So I had it up to 1.7 million next year. He said, let's
slow that
again,
roll
promise
a
silver,
bit.
deliver gold.
Right.
Let's ratchet this back a little bit.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we've dialed it back a little bit. I was planning on trying to hire another. So Drew Pemberton is my sales associate. He's finishing up his sales training this week, and take the training wheels off and just say go 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 starting next week. And he's excited. He's gonna knock it out of the park. But he's an Air Force vet, and then my goal was to hire my next sales associate January, February, and we've tempered those expectations a little bit. Probably going to be closer to March, April.
Do you think it's a little bit of the maybe slowing is because of the supply chain disruptions of like, man, I don't know that we can get enough materials to do enough houses?
I think it's that, and I think part of it is sort of taking a look at lead generation and seeing what's out there. I mean, November and December are typically pretty slow for what we do. I've actually had a pretty fast start to December. A lot of that's referral based. Some of it's home advisor and lead generation through online searches. We do quite a bit of that. I'd like to get away from that because that's expensive. But as we start to generate leads, and I think the thoughtful part when I was told to dial back that expectation was, we don't necessarily have enough leads coming in for us to do the number of appointments or leads that we want to do per week per person. So I would like to do where I do 8 appointments and Drew does 8 appointments per week, because that gives us enough lead flow to really try and build our revenue. But if we're having a hard time doing that with referrals and home advisor, bringing on somebody else is just going to dilute that and cost more money from a staffing perspective, where now I have 2 sales associates and I don't have enough leads to feed them to meet the 8 per week. So until we're turning away, so we measure what's called slippage, where we see how many requests we have for appointments that we can't service.
Yeah. And
so we keep a close eye on that.
What's your conversion rate right about now from an appointment to a?
I'm right around a 35% to 40% close rate right now.
What would you say is the contributing factor to that?
Referrals I land a lot more of.
Yeah. Warm leads are always going to go further than cold lead.
And the home advisor is I'm probably landing 25% of the home advisor leads.
Okay.
And again, it's all about going in. I'm never going to, I won't say never. Odds are I'm not going to be the lowest bid or proposal that somebody gets, because we want to provide the level of service that isn't a low bid level of service.
Let's break that down, because I don't think enough people in sales or people that are business owners understand that early enough on. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, when people go, oh, you could do more business if you cut your commission. And I'm like, no. And I was like, I'm not going to work twice as hard for half the money. Right. And I'm not going to do that to my team. And how many people that all have, that are in the real estate industry going, oh, well, if you did this. And I'm like, well, I'm just curious. What is your volume of business you're doing?
Yeah.
And by the way, commission cutting. And then they tell me how much business they've done in volume. And I'm like, I do that in 4 weeks. And I don't cut my commission, because we offer. I'm not looking to be the cheapest. Right. I'm looking for people that want a trusted advisor to come in. So they're paying for trust.
And value.
Yeah, absolutely. People tie value to a dollar sign, and they got it all wrong.
I'm going to do something taboo and break into I read this on LinkedIn, and I made sure to cut and paste it.
Yeah.
yesterday. It was very timely for this, and we can edit out my searching aspect.
No, you're good. You're good. But people, they get so confused with tying a dollar sign to what value is. And I know this because I was down in Mexico and I got sideswiped down there and stuck with someone trying to pitch something to me. And I said, look, man, I don't care how good the deal is. I said, I don't see the value in this.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, but it's cheaper and the discount. I was like, hey, man, I don't care about cheap and discounts. I said, my value perspective of things is I'll be willing to overpay for something if I feel like the value being offered is there. But people equate value with a discount, and it's not.
Yeah, it's the concept of value has, like you said, become a commodity-based approach to buying.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sell a commodity.
And here's the thing too: once you commoditize yourself,
then
you're
stuck.
Hey,
Yeah.
you're. It's kind of like being a guy and dating, right? When you've been friend zoned, you ain't getting out of friend zone.
No, not at all.
Does it happen? Yeah, there's one-offs, but when you're friend zoned, you're stuck in the friend zone. When you've commoditized yourself.
Well, and there's a difference. So we've had a couple customers who just have said, "Clark, I can't afford that much."
Yeah.
And I'll look at it from every opportunity is unique.
Yeah.
And every opportunity is an opportunity to provide value for different people in different ways.
Yeah.
And if there's somebody who can't afford my full services because they're on a budget, but they like what I'm telling them I can do, then we'll work with them to say, okay, well, the furniture move is a part of this. If you want to move your own furniture, we can save you and go through that. And at that point, you're not really commoditizing yourself. You're just helping them understand the value proposition.
Right.
And that's important.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. What was your post? Did you find it?
So I found it.
Yeah. Let's say there.
It's a little bit long, but it says this is a dialogue, and it's customer. How much will it cost to do this? Contractor, $2,800. Customer, that's way too expensive for this job. The contractor, how much do you think it would cost? No more than $800 max. It's a simple job. And the contractor says, I can't prioritize my time for so little, which is something that's hard for people to understand. And then customer, people in your line of work are so greedy. Sorry you feel that way. Why not do it yourself? But I don't know how to do any of this. He said, for $900, I'll teach you. He said, okay, that sounds great. He said, to get started, you'll need tools. The customer says, but I don't have any of the equipment. He said, okay, I'll rent the equipment to you. And it just goes through that whole process.
Yeah.
And then at the end, the customer says, I've been thinking, it's probably best if you get this job done. I'd rather pay someone to get it done correctly than go through all the hassle.
Yeah.
So people don't understand that there's training involved. There's liability, risk. I mean, it's all these different things that go into doing a job. And people just view it, again, commodity. So helping people understand that, yes, going and buying the floor, you're buying a commodity.
Yeah.
But the service of putting in the floor, making sure it's done correctly, making sure everything underneath it is done correctly, that's where you're deviating from the commodity-based buying opportunity.
Oh, yeah. And like, even with our, so our assets we acquire are targeted areas for universities for off-campus student housing, right? And that's the thing too, is don't be a master at all trades. Be a master at one, right? Be a superpower at what you do instead of a hack at multiple things, right? And so like when I had Kaz and James over Friday last week, is I had built out an equation sheet, much like a whack going through finance, right? Yep. And I said, and I even built a ratio range. If their ratio is within the top 3 grids here, your chances are higher of not only getting them to sign the lease, but that's who we want.
Yep.
And we don't want anybody in the red zone down here. And I said, we can identify them because if market rents for the area are $850 a head, right? And let's say it's a 3-person property, so math for Marines, was it $2,550, right? Is then because our average tenant pays over $1,000 a head. Yeah. And then people just, and like even other, because I buy a lot of properties off of other landlords and owners and stuff like that. They're like, how do you do that? And I said, because people they're not, well, it also helps because, well, the parents write the check, not the,
Yeah.
but I will have parents that will call me and go, well, why is it so much more? And I said, because of what your kid's getting, right? And I said, so, because I'm not only an owner landlord, I'm a parent of a sophomore in college. I go through this same thing. Here's the thing, one, are you aware of what the other leases look like?
Right.
And chances are they hadn't seen any other leases. Right. And I said, I'll send you a copy. Yep. Because when I buy these houses, a lot of times they have tenants in them. And I'm sitting there looking because I get the leases because the leases convey. And I'm sitting there reading that going, there's no way I'd let my kid sign this thing. No way in hell. So when I have a parent go, well, your lease, blah, blah, blah. And I said, hey, look, I want you to have clarity. I want you to be comfortable signing it. I even have it, right? Because I don't use a standardized lease. I had lawyers write it out. And it even says in big, bold, almost 1-inch letters, make sure you read this entire thing before signing, right? Because I'm not in the gaming system, right? I'm not here to sucker you into this, pressure sign now.
Switch,
right? I always tell them, I want you to read through the lease. If your parents, maybe send it to them. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to take 2 weeks to sign this thing, because I got people fighting over getting into my properties, And so anyhow, I go, this is my lease versus other leases. And that usually the parents are just, oh, wow, I had no idea. And I said, oh, yeah. And I said, by the way, read these other leases.
Yeah.
And I was like, because we provide the appliances. And they go, well, the other ones do too. And I said, but read what they're said. If this appliance stops working,
you're buying a new one.
Yeah, it's on you. And if it's not tenant caused, it's on you. I said, if it's tenant caused, we're going to charge you, right? Like, hey, turns out bottle caps don't go down to garbage disposal, froze up got a new garbage disposal, right? And so if it's tenant caused, naturally we're going to charge them back. But if it's not because it's wear and tear, I'm not going to charge the tenants that. And they're like, okay. And I said, we also come in each month and check and or change air filters. And they're like, oh, well, my kid could do that on their own. I said, let me show you. Kids or I said, these tenants are focused on going to class and partying, right?
Or partying.
Yeah, partying. And I said, let me just show you photos of houses that, because in the beginning when I first bought it, I was like, yeah, that's what the standard is of what the air filter looks like a year after they move out.
I don't know.
It is disintegrated. I can bring up photos. Like, it's disintegrated. They've never changed the air filter. And I said, and what that means.
And their lease says, if this goes down,
right,
you're replacing the
You're
HVAC
replacing
system.
it. So if I'm in there checking out the air, looking at the system, and as a matter of fact, I mean, like everything, I'm not saying somebody has to be a vet to work with us, but it's no surprise that it's a lot of vets, a lot of guys from the community, right? So
I was going to say, let's narrow that down. A lot of Marines.
A lot of Marines, and not only that, but a lot of recon Marines, right? Like our HVAC guy was, he was in First Force Recon with Cass. And so we get in there and we check the air filters, we change it. And I said, because I can tell you, when I'm sitting there talking to the parent, if this system goes down, it's not going to go down when it's 80 degrees outside and the windows are open, nice little breeze with slight overcast. It's going to go down in the middle of, we're a mile from the sun and 110% of swamp-ass humidity.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, because not only do we have supply chain disruptions, we have labor disruptions where it may take you a week or two to get that HVAC fixed. Right?
Yeah. And
then even if they can get there, they might not have the parts to it.
So you got 1 week because of labor. You got 2 weeks because of a part.
Yeah. And I said, so it may be a month, right? And by the way, those other leases said, and I said, but I've got the guy. And the chances are look, there are things going to happen that we don't know and we can't predict. Absolutely. But we reduce the risk of that happening because we're in there checking the air filters. And I said, plus we're living in a post-pandemic world where do you really want to rely on a bunch of kids in college to ensure they got clean air in their house? No. And I said, so that's something we do. And then they're like, okay. And I said, and other landlords, like now we sign it into our leases, all new leases. So we have a few houses left that they still are supposed to take care of their pest control. It's like, hey, by the way, were you aware of all these other leases say you're supposed to do pest control? Yeah. Kids ain't going to do the pest control.
And if you haven't, and we find termites, guess what?
Guess what? Now that is your problem, right? And so as I start going through this, and I said, but more importantly is our speed of response, because, and I even tell the parents, I categorize my entire world by have to, need to, want to. Have to is we stop what we're doing to go address that, because there are certain things that require that. Need to is I don't stop what I'm doing to go do that, but as soon as I'm finished, I'm going to go do this. And then want to is, well, we're going to get to it because it's not a high urgency item that needs to be done.
Go life safety on down.
Right. And so I said, so what that allows us to do is that allows us to go and get all this. If your student gets in there and says, this is the issue, they get a response of when we're going to go take care of that.
Yeah.
Right? And I said, and I can tell you, parent, that when I buy houses that have, that the tenants have been dealing with the existing owner landlord, they tell us historically, they're like, you do more in 5 minutes than the last person did in 5 months, right?
They just look for the mailbox
Yeah,
money.
that's
in
it.
In a lot of cases, yeah.
And then I go, right? And so usually by now they're like, okay, now I see why. And I said, yeah, so now what we do when we make an acquisition on a property, when those tenants move out, or if it doesn't have tenants during the acquisition, like the one we're making today, is we do all the utilities. And I'm just going to bill you.
Yeah.
For the utilities, and you pay a $25 convenience fee to get the bill, right? And I go, because guess what? As it turns out, some of these kids learn after 6 months they don't want to live with each other, and so if they're interchanging a roommate, but that one had gas, and this one had water, and this one did utility or power, and this one did internet, then they got to go through all that, and there's a lot of stress for them. Is now they just get a bill, and I said, by the way, not only that, but I've got an app that you pay your rent on, and that's where I bill you on. So you don't even have to worry about checks and collect them from whoever. If you're going to divide it amongst four, they all just go in there and they make their payment.
Well, if you've got the utilities in different names and there's a service disruption and one guy's back home in California.
Yeah. And here's the thing is, most of the time, your kid's not going to pay attention to the emails that go, hey, your water usage is really, really high than it normally is. They just wait till they get the big fat bill and they're like, oh my God, what's wrong? They're like, yeah, it's called you got a leak somewhere.
Yeah.
Whereas we have someone monitoring that to go, oh, that's not something's going on. Now, even if they missed the email by a day, would you rather miss a leak or a running toilet that's causing your water bill to go up by a day, or miss it by a month whenever you get the bill? And actually it's going to be longer than a month, right? And
it's going to be back,
right? And I said, so you've got that. And I said, also, because I have these corporate accounts, I get better rates. And because I get a better rate, your kid, the utilities you're paying for are actually lower. Now, it ain't a big lower, but it's a bit lower. Yeah. I said, I can tell you this, that $25 convenience fee, at least covered, that would be the covered, right? And generally it's more than that. And I said, oh, and because we do the internet and I get faster internet because it's corporate count, right? And I get it at a better cost.
So you do business internet?
Oh, yeah. Nice. And because I do that, it also helps because one of the things we do with assets is we add Ring floodlight security perimeter cameras, which need an internet connection, right? So if somebody forgets to pay the bill, and you're like, oh, and that's also when somebody broke into the house, you don't have that problem because we're making sure it's on auto payment comes out. So by the time I go through all of this, right, the parents are, and even the kids are like, I had no idea. And I said, so really, after you get done adding all that, are they really paying more to be in our property? No, they're probably paying the same amount they will for everybody else's, except they're getting better. And I'm not here to be in the convincing business. If your kid can only afford $650 a head, right?
Names are some other guys.
Yeah. Hey, guess what? Yeah. There's a lot of properties out there that will take that.
Yeah.
But they're not going to get the same experience. And like I said, is when we have kids come over to our properties, like this last season, getting on these leases. Kids were fighting over to get in our properties.
That kid that you had, and I don't know, is he still interning with you?
Yeah.
I mean, just having him talk about.
Yeah, he's like, man, I'm
Word of
not only
mouth
their intern, I'm one of the tenants. And he's got the biggest party house.
Yeah, it's right there. So there's that Shell station right here, and he's right halfway down the.
Yeah, and they got the party backyard.
And can walk over and get beer at the beer store.
Oh man! And he tells me all the time. He goes, "Yeah, when I'm sitting there talking to my friends that live in other houses, they hate it. They were just like, man, we just don't get the level of service. So that value gets demonstrated of we're going to do everything within our power to make sure your kid's being taken care of better than someone else's. And I can tell you, as a parent who's got a kid in college, I have more comfort in that than I really worry about what the monthly bill is going to be.
Oh yeah,
That's how you define value for someone, where then they're like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, but look, I get it. If you're not willing to pay any more, there are other houses out there, right? You're looking for the discount. Well, there's discount houses. Go get a discount house.
Yeah. I mean, there's solutions for everybody.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So now you're going into 2022.
Yep.
Things are looking good. Things are looking promising for you, right? I mean, now let's
depends on the day you ask.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about a few of those things before we wind down this show. Is what are some of the things you've learned by being a business owner? Painful lessons, painful things, which, I mean, we don't need to list them all because it's probably an encyclopedia full.
Yeah.
That you're like, I had no idea.
So one thing, I mean, and we've talked about this in the past, but yeah, cash burn and just burning through, managing expenses, managing how quickly those expenses hit, and that kind of thing, and really just trying to stay ahead of it, because it's amazing how quickly you can burn through cash if you're not paying attention. And I mean, we're still in the learning process there, trying to make sure our expenses are X, and then not remembering on our P&L. So it's interesting. We do an accrual-based accounting system. So
talk about that for the audience that doesn't know.
So accrual-based versus cash-based. So if I get paid, so whenever we do a job, we take half the payment up front. That allows us to go get materials and get geared up for the job. But I don't recognize that cash on my P&L until the job is performed. So when I land a job, so let's take my parents' house, for example. So I landed the job in, let's say March.
Okay.
We installed the job in August. Well, I got cash in March, but that cash doesn't hit my P&L until August. Mm-hmm. So, well, I've spent that cash by then.
Right. Yeah.
Probably several times over.
Yeah.
So really just managing that.
Yeah.
And making sure that we are, I mean, it almost makes me want to keep two sets of books, a cash-based set of books, because I don't want to do bank account cash management, because that's scary.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, just trying to make sure cash is on hand for payments and all, payroll, those kinds of things. And we're getting better. It's sort of scary. You get excited about, I only lost X amount of dollars this month. But we're starting to get beyond that. We've had two profitable months, which is nice.
Yeah.
But hopefully many more of those to come in the next year.
There's probably something else that people didn't tell you as a business owner is, hey, you're going to be really fortunate if you're at all profitable in your first year.
Yep.
Right?
And some people say even first two.
It's like when we built Stacks Property Services, CAS, and so in our first 90 days, we were $62,000 profit.
That's awesome.
I mean, and it was funny. So I was, prior to having the dinner this last Monday with James and Kaz and our wives, because everybody's business partners in this,
right.
Is a few nights earlier I'd had a dinner with another good friend of mine, has been on the show, Chris Jameson. It has the landscaping pool building company.
Okay.
And we were having dinner, and I was telling him, I was like, yeah, man, I was $62K positive in the first 90 days. And he just goes, that just doesn't happen.
No.
And I was like, yeah, I know, because I've done this business. I've lost a lot of money before, right? I've closed businesses that I started because I thought I knew, And then I quickly found out that I did not know what I needed to know, where I was like, this is how this works. This is why we do this. And so I was able to tell Kaz, look, all you got to do is go fast. Here's why. And I said, by the way, I said, you don't know because he's never owned a business before. I said, this does not happen. Matter of fact, if you go to an entrepreneur summit and you walk in there and go, my first business, I was $62,000 profitable in the first 90 days.
They may kick you out of the room.
They will kick you out of the room. They're going to go, you don't even know how that does not happen. Like, you got lucky. No, just happens to be partnered up with someone that has done this multiple times to go, this is how we do this. This is what's here. And, like, he was really wanting to dive into the accounting in the beginning. I said, we don't have time for that. Yeah. Right. And I said, trust me, I want to hand this accounting shit off to you as fast as I possibly can because it's a pain in my ass. Yeah. But I said, that's not the highest and best use of your time right now. I need you executing.
Right.
So we've got the cash coming in, and then we are able to look at the clients and go, this is what you got.
Do you do it a percentage basis? Is that how you
percentage basis
so when stacks bills, is it
it's all different for different things.
Okay.
Right. And because I told them the other thing that we created was multiple revenue streams. Right. We're not just here with one. No, we do one thing. Right. We are a property services company, not a property management company.
Okay.
Right. But those services have everything from we send you a bill for your utilities. If you want this thing furnished, Jess, Kaz's wife, will come in, meet with you, and then we'll come up with an arranged price where you can rent the furnishings during your time there. And we'll even have it ready turnkey whenever you walk through the door. We're there to naturally respond to the needs of things that break and go wrong. We're there to, check the air filters each month and so forth. We're also there when somebody's looking to buy a house and needs some maintenance stuff, painting, whatever done, right? We're non-licensed trade stuff, right? That is a whole litany. And by the way, and this is what I told him. I said, I know this thing's going to make a lot of money because, one, the labor shortages are so incredible. Going back to that example, it's like, I don't know how to do that, or I don't have the tools to do that, or I don't have the time to do that, or the want and desire, and I can't find anybody else to go do that, right? So we're able to come in like a concierge service and provide all that. And here's the thing: is there was I knew because I was living in it myself, having making acquisitions and everything else, and having clients that when they got ready to sell their house, they needed things done to make to get a higher demand, right? And I said, so I know that there is a void in this place that if we can fill that void, we're going to make money. Now it's not going to be sexy, right? Like, but then again, look at the porta potties, right? People go, man, who wants that job? I'm sure that guy's living in money.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not sexy. Things that are profitable are not always sexy.
I have a friend who's extremely successful in the barricade business.
Yeah.
Find a niche market and do it well.
Do it well. Hell, you don't even have to be the best. You just suck less than everybody else, right? And then you constantly improve.
Showing up is a hell of a start.
Answer your phone. Novel idea. We had a foundation issue on one of our houses that we needed to get addressed, and Cass was like, it took me 6 weeks and people just not showing up. Right? Like, they're going to get paid to show up and do the work. And it took them 6 weeks to find somebody to get in there to do the job because they wouldn't even show up or they wouldn't answer their phone. And I'm like, man, that is a reality right now. It's not just supply chain shortages, labor shortages. And by the way, the labor shortage thing was already becoming a big issue prior to that COVID-19 pandemic. That COVID-19 just accelerated it, right? To have people that can do a trade. And now, I said, we're able to do that. And I said, and that's filling that void. I said, I just didn't throw shit against the wall and hope it was going to stick with this thing. There was a lot of thought, a lot of, and even Kaz had told me, when I called him in August and I said, hey, I was like, I need a recon ring because I know the kind of trust level that comes with it. If I give you something to do it, you operate with autonomy, you're going to make that happen. And I don't have time to sit there and wonder if somebody can or can't make this happen. And I said, and you're going to go so fast and you're going to operate in a lot of ambiguity funny because guess what spec ops guys do? Yep. They operate in austere ambiguity and everything else. They comfortable living without you. There's a reason he was picked, right?
Yeah, right.
And it was kind of funny. Actually, I had him and another recovering, and the other one changed his mind and said, man, I've got too many things going on.
Yeah.
And I know that right about now, if Chris is listening to this, he's sitting there going, y'all had how much money in the first 90 days? He was like, that's more than I even need to make in a year,
Yeah.
And it's so I said, look, we've got this, man. It's right there. We're going to fill the void and we're going to get better. Because I told him, I said, I need you swinging a hammer for the first 6 months because I need you to understand the business.
Yep.
And then from 6 months to 12 months, I need you acquiring talent that will be swinging the hammers, and you're only swinging one if you're bored. At year one, at the year mark, you should at that point be scaling the business. And by year two, you should be working yourself out of the business that by year three, you own the company from your island.
Yeah.
Right? You don't do it because all too many, and so you learned in your MBA and especially in business is you have storming, forming, norming, performing. Most people that build a business, well, they don't even make it past the storming. You're in survival, right? And then the forming, which is putting in your processes, how we're going to do this better, the ones that do make it, right? So let's say you had the 80-20 rule, right?
Right.
So you got 80 that didn't make it to the forming stage. And then out of that, 20% make it to the norming stage. So now 4 out of 20 make it to the norming, right? And that's when people that own a business live comfortable. They live comfortable because it's norming, but they're in the business, right?
Yeah.
But they're making good living and they don't have to work for anybody else and all of that. But out of that 4 that make it to norming, only 20% will make it to performing, which means your business can operate without you in it. As a matter of fact, you're probably the problem. Stay away from it. Let the talent that you hired do it, right? And by the way, what your multiple is to sell a business, which the majority of them are,
goes
in
way
norming,
up when you're not in it.
Because anybody can buy it.
Yeah.
Because when you're in norming, right, and you haven't gone to performing, they have to buy you because you are the business.
Right.
And it means that there's a lot of risk. People don't want, like, what do I do if you decide not to do this? Or a lot of times you'll see negotiate, hey, we're going to buy the business, but we need you to stay in it, XYZ, to train the next person that when you're performing, you can sell it to anybody.
You go from 2 to 3x, EBITDA to 5 to 7.
Yeah. And so I told Kaz, I said, we're performing by year 3, which means we can sell the business at any point.
Yep.
Because somebody can take it, they can franchise it, they can grow it. Maybe we franchise it. Who knows? I mean, sky's the limit. But I said, but you need to have an exit strategy because you don't build a business that you can't put the skins on the wall, right? You take the win and you sell it. And then if you're bored, just go do another one because now you've done what only 1 out of 100 did, which is get it to that performing stage, right? And I was like, and look, we're not young chickens. You get enough big, payday out of that. It's you sell on down the river.
You can be your neighbor in Colorado,
right? Hell yeah. No, because then I would drink way too much. I already drink enough as it is. I don't need Kaz being there, or else it would be a total shit show all the time.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I like to end all these of going back to 20-year-old self. And I know that we tell ourselves a million things, but if you knew 20-year-old self would listen to just one thing, what you would do or not do, what would you tell 20-year-old Clark Sykes?
Variety of different things. But so military side, maybe stick it out a little bit longer, get to retirement. That could have been fun. But really, probably don't hesitate.
Yeah.
So I hesitated. I thought about starting a business for years, and I hesitated because I didn't think I had the knowledge. What I realized going through the MBA program is I still don't have the knowledge. You have to do it to have the knowledge.
Yeah.
So just do it.
Yeah.
Don't wait. There's never an ideal time. It's like when you have kids. Yeah. There's never a perfect time to have kids. There's never a perfect time to start a business. Just
not a perfect time to start an MBA.
Just do it.
Yeah.
And you know what? You may fail.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to fail. I mean, you learn a lot by failing. Now, there's only so many times I want to learn the lessons, but I mean, just go out there and take the risk.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I have support at home. My wife is supportive, maybe reluctantly at times, but she told me, she said, I know if you don't do this, you're going to regret it. So you've talked about it for years.
Scratch that itch.
Let's just do it. Let's see how it is. And I know it's been stressful on her, and I know it hasn't always been rosy from a family perspective because, yeah, it takes a lot of time. But she's let me do it. She's been supportive. She understands that there is risk involved, but that we'll make it through it.
Yeah.
I mean, having a business fail does not mean you're a failure. Mm-mm. Having a business fail means that you've learned lessons and you can go out and do it again and succeed the next time.
I really think Webster's Dictionary should say the definition of experience is how much stuff you screwed up to learn not to do that again, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or to do it different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Learn the lessons. Learn. But don't repeat them. I mean, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, then you haven't learned anything. You're just an idiot.
Right. There's a lot of idiots out there, by the way. There are a lot of idiots.
And I'm just trying hard not to count myself among them.
So people, they wherever they are, and they're like, hey, I want to know more about floors in my house. How do they find you?
So again, I'm Floor Coverings International of Southwest Fort Worth. My territory really is Lake Arlington, south into Kennedale, and out to Aledo. I can go anywhere for commercials and anywhere for referrals, but we do have a strong group of franchisees in the DFW area. You can reach me at my office, 682-250-6944 for those of you who still use phones, or just Google Floor Coverings International of Southwest Fort Worth. Will pop up. We're happy to serve you, and quite frankly, if it's a job up in Frisco or Plano or something like that, that's pretty far out of my territory, I can point you in the right direction, because we formed a co-op in this area, and we're a team, so we're all growing value together, which is exciting to me.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, Big
Jeremy.
Boy. I appreciate your time.